Hello and welcome to MadeItMikayla. Today I'm going to show you how I make air dry clay pins, magnets, and trinket trays. The first step is to prep your clay. So I'm just taking a little bit from the pack. And then I'm warming it up a little in my hands. I use a pair of wooden takeout chopsticks on the sides, so when I'm rolling it out, the clay will be even. And I'm also using a glass jar to roll it out. You can use things that you find in your house, like I am, and you don't have to buy fancy tools. So next, to make the clay, I pre-made these little template pieces with my Trinket, and then I'm cutting them out manually with a little clay tool. Next, we're lifting up the excess clay so that we can reuse it again for future pieces. And that's one of my favorite parts about clay making, is that there's almost no waste to it. So next, I'm smoothing out the surface of the clay and the sides. And I'm just using a little bit of water to do that and my finger, but if you do have like a nice tool, you can also use that. And you want to be careful with how you're shaping it, because if you are rounding it out too much, it might ruin the shape. So yeah, just be careful about that. Next, we're doing carving, which might be an extra step that you can skip if you want, but for my plant-based designs, I really like the carved look to them. So here I'm carving out where the veins and like the lines might be. It's helpful to keep water nearby, and you can also wet the top surface while you're carving so that it's just easier to carve and keep smooth. And then while you carve, there will be excess clay, so I'm just adding that back into the pile. And yeah, this can take quite a while, so I like to do them in batches, but for video purposes, I only did these two just to show you a little bit. Next, we are adding the fenestrations, or the holes in the leaves. And then I'm also making trinket trays. So I took a bowl that I found in my house, and I believe I got this one from the thrift store. And then I pressed it into the clay to get the circle shape, and then I cut it out with my tool again. And yeah, just put the excess clay into the pile. Same process. And then I'm going to smooth out the edges on this as well. And then to let it dry, I'm placing it on the bowl again, but the underside instead. and then that will leave like a little top edge to make it into the tray shape. Then I let it dry for a few days, and then once it's dry, we can do the next step, which is sanding. And I would recommend doing this outdoors. And I also wore a mask because I did it in my indoor space, but yeah, definitely go outside for this, and you don't want to breathe that in. Next, we're doing painting, which is personally one of my favorite steps. I love adding color to the little pieces. So we picked out our little paint brushes, and I'm using up some old paint. So it's a little chunky, which is why I'm adding water sometimes. But yeah, you can just use like regular acrylic paint or gouache acrylic paint, and just anything opaque so that you can get some nice color and you don't see the clay through the paint. And yeah, just enjoy painting and having fun with this. I'm including some real-time clips and some time-lapse clips just so you can see the whole process and get an idea of how long this actually takes. I'd say the overall, like from start to finish, takes over a week because of drying time mostly. And yeah, this video is filmed over a few months because I did different batches and tried out what works and what doesn't work. So this is the process that I am going with now that I have made some pieces. So I like to paint all the same color at once because the brush is all messy with that one color and your fingers as well, and it's just easier to paint all the same color at once. And right now I'm painting the tops of the pieces, and then later I will go in and do the sides and the back. So yeah, by the time that you finish doing a lot of the tops, it will be dry to the touch so you can do the sides. So for the carved pieces, you want to make sure that you get into all the nooks and crannies, and then later on you can smoothen out the top paint. It might be because my paint is old, but the paint is a little chunky, so yeah, I do the little indents first and then I'm smoothing out the top here. Also, side note, this is my first voiceover, so I apologize if there's any like terrible background noise, I'll try to filter it out, but it is a windy day and for some reason I hear a lot of like machinery around me. But yeah, let me know how you like it later. So once the first color is dry, I can go ahead and do the second color, which is like this darker green. And it's pretty therapeutic to paint each piece. And I just love how the back, when you paint the back, it pretty much completes the piece. And it makes it like, hey, I finished a piece. One of my favorite parts about this is that even though you're making the same design over and over, each little piece will turn out slightly different, which would make each one just a little unique. And I just love how it's like handmade like that. And this is how they turned out. For the trinket tray, I'm sketching out a little plant design that I have in mind, and then we're going in to paint that. And I'm not used to painting as much because I'm more of a digital artist, so this did turn out a little bit blobbier than I liked, and so I just put an outline on top of it. And it turned out really cute. Ta-da! And yeah, this is a peek of the sealer that I put on all my pieces later. And I also paint the sides and the backs of my trinket trays because it just completes the piece to me. And so this is the second trinket tray design that I'm doing for this batch, and for this one we are painting little flowers and leaves. And yeah, it's just fun to do, and like you can scatter them around and it turns out super cute. Next, we're putting on the sealer to seal the pieces and make them water resistant. I love how the sealer actually leaves kind of like a brush stroke look, but if you want, you can try and smoothen that out, and it might be because of my paintbrush, which is a little older also. This is actually a very important step that I would definitely recommend that you do. Now we are putting the pin backs and magnet backs on. And for this step, I went outside because the glue that I'm using is very potent, and yeah, you might want to go outside for this and sanding. And ta-da! We are finished! I also went ahead and made the pin backing cards on my own, but basically I just sketched them out in Procreate and then designed them in Illustrator, and then put about 12 of them on a sheet and cut it out and rounded the corners. And yeah, this is how they all turned out, and I'm super proud of how they came together and how they just look so good together or separate. And they will be on my website by the time this video is posted. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed making these along with me, and if you follow the same process, I'd love to see how your clay pieces turn out. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye!